On a frigid night in Charleston, 1887, the Holloway estate sat silent atop the hill, its windows reflecting only darkness. The grand mansion, adorned with carved oak and iron balconies, seemed alive yet empty. Plates still warm on the dining table, the silverware untouched. A fire smoldered lazily in the hearth. The wind whispered through the oak trees, carrying faint, almost inaudible sounds. Local newspapers reported a singular disappearance, matter-of-fact, sterile. Yet townsfolk whispered of lights flickering in empty rooms, of doors opening and closing on their own. The maid Ellen Harper swore she heard children laughing in the drawing room, giggles that vanished the moment she approached. Letters lay scattered across the floor, pages torn, words crossed out as if by trembling hands. No sign of struggle, no footprints in the yard, no carriage tracks leading away. Thomas Holloway, patriarch of the family, a man known for his sternness and reticence, had vanished. Margaret Holloway, elegant and imposing, gone without a trace. The children, nowhere to be found. Shadows clung to the walls as though absorbing the family's absence. Even the city felt different. Hushed, wary, aware of something unspeakable lingering in the air. Rumors of curses, ancestral debts, and unseen watchers spread quietly among neighbors. Some swore the house had a heartbeat of its own, a slow pulse echoing in the empty hallways. Could a family simply vanish, leaving only silence? Or had Charleston witnessed something far older, darker, than any ledger or report could capture? By midnight, the estate seemed to breathe, doors creaking in rhythm with the wind, windows reflecting figures that were never there. The river glimmered below, carrying faint echoes of footsteps never taken. Townsfolk later described a chilling sensation when walking past the mansion. Hairs standing on end, the feeling of being observed. The Holloway disappearance was not just an absence, it was a presence, a lingering whisper of mystery. And though official records labeled it fate unknown, the estate itself held the truth, in shadows that lengthened, in whispers that refused to die, in empty rooms that remembered. Those who dared to enter spoke of cold spots, of fleeting glimpses of movement, of laughter that had no source. In the hush of Charleston nights, the mansion waited, patient, timeless, as if it knew that some secrets were never meant to be revealed. Charleston, South Carolina, 1887, a city still scarred by the memories of the Civil War. Streets patched, buildings rebuilt, yet shadows lingered in corners untouched by sunlight. The Holloways, a family of wealth and influence, lived atop a hill overlooking the Ashley River. Their mansion, an imposing structure of brick and carved oak, reflected both prosperity and secrecy. Within its walls, servants whispered of rooms kept locked for decades, hallways where drafts seemed to move against the wind, of whispers that carried through corridors when no one should be there. Thomas Holloway, patriarch, a man of stern demeanor, rarely stepped outside. His wife, Margaret, elegant and imposing, hosted social events with grace, yet behind closed doors she was equally commanding. Their children, 2 boys and a girl, were rarely seen in public, their play confined to the estate's sprawling gardens. Neighbors later recalled glimpses of the children at dawn, their shadows stretched unnaturally long. A gentle mist hovering over the river seemed to cling to the mansion, carrying with it an almost tangible weight. In 1887, Charleston's society was a tapestry of contrasts. The old aristocracy trying to rebuild the working poor, navigating streets still lined with scars from conflict. The Holloway estate, perched above all, seemed impervious. Yet the disappearance of the family would ripple through the city. Officials filed reports with clinical detachment. Fate unknown, they wrote. Yet whispers persisted in the local taverns, in the marketplace, in the corridors of the city hall. People spoke of a curse, of debts unpaid across generations, of shadowed figures watching silently from within the mansion. Servants reported strange occurrences in the weeks before the disappearance. Footsteps echoing in empty corridors, doors opening and closing on their own, cold spots where the air seemed to thicken, lights flickering in rooms where no candle had been lit. Children playing in the gardens would stop abruptly, staring at nothing, as if observing an unseen presence. Neighbors noted sudden gusts of wind even in calm weather. A carriage reportedly left the estate at midnight one night, no driver seen. But the tracks ended abruptly at the edge of the property. The city's newspapers carried brief accounts, one column describing singular disappearance, another noting conflicting witness reports. Some claimed to see figures moving in the upper windows. Others swore they heard voices calling out names. Yet the official files were sparse, partially destroyed. Missing pages. Records from local merchants showed payments made. Invoices returned with cryptic symbols. Letters from distant relatives arrived blacked out. Diaries recovered later revealed cryptic passages, torn crossed out almost pleading. One line reads, "The shadows are patient. They wait for silence to consume us." Folklore intertwined with these facts. Stories of a woman in tattered dress wandering the estate at midnight, searching for her lost children. Lights appearing where no one resided. Footsteps retracing paths long abandoned. Some spoke of an heirloom cursed across generations, granting misfortune to those who uncovered it. Others whispered of secret societies, pacts made and broken, of debts owed in blood. The Holloway disappearance became a motif, repeated across the South, families vanishing silently, towns holding their collective breath. Even the landscape seemed complicit. Moss-covered oaks bending over the estate, their shadows long and cold at dusk. The river carrying echoes of footsteps never taken. Wind through empty gardens creating whispers. The mansion's silent yet sentient stood as a witness, not just to the Holloways' lives, but to their disappearance. Neighbors described feeling watched, hairs standing on end, a sense of time suspended. The estate existed in two realms, one of tangible architecture, another of whispered memory, where history and legend intertwined seamlessly. Servants' accounts painted a vivid picture of daily life leading up to the disappearance. Meals laid out, yet no one ate. Candles burning, yet no one tended them. The children reportedly played in the nursery, giggling at invisible companions, shadows shifting unnaturally. Their laughter carried across empty halls. Some claimed that mirrors reflected figures not present. The family's interactions, documented in diaries and letters, suggested tension beneath a veneer of normalcy. Thomas Holloway's notes referenced financial strain. Margaret's letters hinted at worry. There is a presence here. Unseen patient watching. The city around them was alive, Charleston bustling with commerce and rumor, yet a pall hung over the Holloway estate. The combination of fact and folklore created a narrative impossible to untangle. Townspeople reported lights in the windows, shadows moving, footsteps retracing themselves, all coinciding with the timeline of the family's vanishing. And though historians later tried to reconstruct events, gaps remained. Evidence destroyed or missing, records incomplete, diaries torn, letters redacted. In essence, Charleston in 1887 was both backdrop and character, its streets, buildings, and river framing the Holloway disappearance. The city's collective memory preserving fragments, human recollection sustaining the mystery, oral histories passed down, accounts altered by time, each retelling adding texture, each whisper enhancing dread. The Holloway's absence created a vacuum, filled with speculation, fear, and myth. And within this context, the story of the forgotten family becomes more than disappearance. It becomes legend, a cautionary tale, a haunting narrative suspended between the real and the unreal. The investigation into the Holloway disappearance began in earnest the morning after the family failed to appear at breakfast. Officers arrived at the estate, noting the lack of any sign of forced entry, windows locked from the inside, doors intact. The dining table was set, food partially consumed as if the family had simply evaporated from their chairs. Candles still burning low in the evening chill cast flickering shadows that seemed to twist unnaturally across the walls. The fire, half consumed, had not been stoked yet, smoldered, holding a warmth that no one could account for. The maid Ellen Harper provided a detailed account. She reported hearing footsteps echo through the hallways, soft, deliberate, yet not matching the rhythm of any known occupant. Whispers called out names: Thomas, Margaret, Jonathan, Elizabeth. She followed the sounds calling into empty rooms only to find nothing. The echo of her own voice returned to her, mingled with something else, something she could not name. Town records listed the family as missing, a singular entry, fate unknown. Officials noted the unusual calm of the household. Nothing appeared disturbed. The only oddity was a ledger of purchases, paid in full, yet invoices returned, marked with strange symbols, symbols not found in any other Charleston records. A neighbor, Mrs. Layton, reported seeing a carriage depart the estate at midnight, yet the carriage tracks ended abruptly. The driver was never identified. Another account claimed a lantern flickered in the library window, though no one had entered that room in days. Subsequent investigations uncovered correspondence from Margaret Holloway, letters to distant relatives, cryptic and incomplete, words crossed out, ink smeared. Some entries suggested unease, fear of an unseen presence. There is a darkness here, patient, waiting. One diary entry noted an argument, financial strain, mentions of ancestral obligations. References to a family curse left vague but foreboding. Archival research decades later revealed inconsistencies. Police reports partially destroyed, some files missing entirely. Newspaper clippings from that week survive, reporting conflicting witness statements, figures in windows, children laughing when none were present. The city records incomplete hint at erasure, documents deliberately removed. A merchant ledger corroborates large withdrawals in the days before the disappearance. Yet no payment destination is recorded. Bank ledgers show signatures, yet the author is unclear. The Holloway disappearance appears meticulously untraceable, evidence erased or vanished. Folklore also enters the factual record. Reports of shadowy figures seen in the upper windows, lights that flicker without source, footsteps retracing themselves. Some claim that the mansion itself seemed alive, doors creaking in rhythm with distant wind. Servants described clocks stopping, fires extinguishing spontaneously. These accounts, while anecdotal, are numerous. Multiple witnesses across several households in proximity reported similar phenomena. The fact layer cannot fully explain them. Yet patterns emerge, recurrent, persistent, suggesting not mere coincidence. A fragment of a diary recovered in the 1920s hints at more. The shadows watch. They wait until silence is complete. We are observed, even unseen. Letters from distant cousins sent weeks after the disappearance are blacked out, only fragments readable. The ledger, the diaries, the official reports. Each fragment tells part of the story, but never the whole. Evidence points to deliberate concealment. Some historians theorize human intervention, deliberate abduction. Others speculate something beyond human comprehension. The physical estate also yielded clues, hidden passages behind the library shelves, narrow corridors beneath floorboards, each leading to dead ends. Compartmentalized walls revealed letters tucked away, cryptic warnings, phrases like "the debt of the past must be repaid," financial anomalies, unexplained large withdrawals, letters from Thomas and Margaret, partially destroyed. The pattern of disappearance appears orchestrated, yet impossible to fully verify. Each fragment, each diary entry, each ledger item forms a lattice of mystery, an invisible hand guiding the events. Further reports detail oddities in daily life prior to the disappearance. Servants recall rooms that grew inexplicably cold, shadows stretching across walls without source, children hearing voices, giggling at things unseen. Some report mirrors reflecting figures that should not be present, candles flickering as if stirred by unseen hands. Even animals on the estate reacted strangely. Horses refused to enter certain stalls, dogs barking at empty corridors. The Holloway's disappearance becomes a nexus where fact and folklore intertwine. Additional evidence points to local superstition. Whispers of a family heirloom cursed, bringing misfortune to those who touch or uncover it. Anecdotal accounts suggest that each generation of Holloways had been touched by tragedy. Yet the final vanishing, the 1887 disappearance, remains the most chilling. Each recovered artifact, diary, ledger, letter reinforces the presence of a pattern. Something deliberate, something unseen. The estate itself, with its walls thick with history, seems to hold on to the truth, while keeping it just out of reach. The fact layer, though incomplete, paints a chilling tableau. A family present, then absent. Evidence removed or erased, documents destroyed, objects left in place, yet imbued with meaning. Witness accounts, archival records, letters, ledgers, all converge, hinting at orchestration, human or otherwise. Each fragment adds weight to the notion that the Holloway's vanishing was not random, but part of a sequence. A motif repeated in whispers across Charleston, across the South. Families vanish quietly, leaving rooms laughter shadows and questions. The Holloway disappearance thus sits at the intersection of reality and myth, the known and the unknowable, fact and folklore entwined, forming a legacy of the forgotten. Walking through the streets near the Ashley River today, one can almost hear echoes of the Holloway children running through the gardens at dawn. Fleeting figures, their laughter carried by the wind, a memory suspended in time. Neighbors' diaries describe a palpable tension in the days before the disappearance. Servants whispering of sudden chills, shadows that lingered too long in hallways, doors that moved without wind. Even the animals on the estate seemed to sense something. Horses refusing certain stalls, dogs barking at empty corridors. These human impressions preserve the lived experience where official records fall silent. Elderly residents recounted the family with both fear and fascination. The Holloways, they said, were ever present yet ever absent. Thomas with his stern countenance, Margaret with her quiet, commanding presence, and the children, shy, ethereal, almost as if they belonged to the shadows themselves. One servant spoke of hearing whispers of names in the nursery late at night, giggling that seemed to respond to unseen companions. Another recalled catching glimpses of movement in mirrors, reflections of figures who were not there. Even after decades, the estate maintained a weight, a sense of observation, as if the walls themselves remembered. The Holloway estate existed in two realms simultaneously. One tangible, composed of brick, wood, and iron. The other intangible, a theater of human perception. Whispers, shivers, glimpses. Footsteps echoed in corridors. Chairs moved ever so slightly. Candles flickered as if reacting to invisible breath. Visitors walking the halls described sensations of being watched. A prickling on the back of the neck. The sensation of someone or something following each movement. These human responses, fragmentary and subjective, form a layer of narrative as vital as any ledger or diary. It is in these perceptions that the estate's true mystery persists. Children of the neighborhood spoke of hearing laughter when no one was present, of shadows stretching along walls, of fleeting glimpses in windows. Some described the sensation of being beckoned, of a presence hovering just beyond sight. Elders recalled similar experiences decades later. The stories passed down orally, transformed with each retelling, yet retaining an unmistakable core, a presence, the Holloways, or perhaps something that had claimed them, watching still, waiting. Servants who remained after the disappearance noted the absence of normal rhythms in the household, meals left uneaten, fires unmaintained, clocks stopping. The estate seemed suspended, frozen in a single moment, and yet movement was everywhere, in shadows, in flickering candlelight, in the whisper of curtains stirred by unseen hands. Even objects seemed imbued with intent. Books displaced, letters moved. A piano occasionally struck keys on its own, the sound echoing down empty halls, creating a melody both familiar and haunting. One elderly neighbor, recalling the days of her youth, described the experience of walking past the estate, feeling a chill that pierced the skin, hearing whispers that seemed to speak directly to her mind. Her diary entry reads, "The house watches and waits for those who remember but do not understand." Such accounts repeated across families in proximity to the estate create a human map of perception. Each testimony adds texture, dimension, and emotion. They transform the Holloway disappearance from mere fact to experience, from record to story, from shadow to presence. Local folklore merged seamlessly with these human observations. Tales of ghostly figures wandering through empty rooms, glimpses of children at play in gardens that no longer exist, lights appearing in windows at night, doors opening and closing without cause. Servants' accounts, neighbors' diaries, and oral stories all reinforce the narrative. They attest to a persistent awareness of the Holloways, a lingering presence felt long after their disappearance. The human scene becomes a living testimony, a record etched in memory rather than paper. The estate's influence extended beyond the Holloway family. It touched the community, shaping perceptions, influencing behavior. Neighbors reported avoiding certain streets at night. Children warned by elders to stay clear of the gardens. Stories whispered in hushed voices. The human element, rich with fear, curiosity, and fascination, preserves what documents cannot: emotion, texture, and lived experience. It is here in human reaction and observation that the estate's story gains depth. Its legacy sustained not by evidence alone, but by the people who felt its weight. Even decades later, descendants and historians recount oddities, inexplicable sensations, glimpses of movement, and whispers carried by the wind. The Holloway estate remains a locus of human memory, its influence permeating lives even when the family itself is absent. Witness accounts, fragmentary, subjective, and sometimes contradictory, form a lattice of perception, each recollection layering upon the next, creating a narrative both haunting and tangible. The human scene preserves not just what happened, but how it felt: the fear, the awe, the uncertainty. The Holloways themselves, though physically absent, remain present through these human records, their laughter, their whispers, their shadows, all captured in memory, in diaries, in the collective consciousness of Charleston. Even those who never saw them personally sense their presence. Stories passed down generations, echoed in oral histories, remembered in dreams. Their absence defines the estate and the city. Their story is not only about disappearance, but about the indelible impression left upon those who witnessed even fragments. Thus, the human scene is integral to understanding the Holloway mystery. It bridges the gap between the cold, incomplete facts and the folklore that transforms disappearance into legend. Emotion, perception, and memory provide context that no ledger or diary could. The estate lives on, in stories, in fear, in curiosity. A family forgotten by time, yet remembered in the human heart. Charleston remembers, even as the world moves on, even as decades pass. The Holloway's presence persists. Further investigations into the Holloway estate revealed secrets hidden within its very walls. Narrow passages concealed behind bookshelves, floorboards lifted to reveal shallow corridors. Each passage led only to dead ends, yet their existence suggested a meticulous design. Letters found within hidden compartments revealed cryptic warnings, references to debts owed across generations, phrases written in haste, ink smudged. The shadows are patient. They wait for silence to consume us. One diary entry read, "Financial records were equally perplexing. Large withdrawals occurred days before the disappearance, yet no recipient or destination was ever recorded. Bank ledgers contained signatures, but the authenticity remained uncertain. Additional correspondence from distant relatives discovered years later contained blacked-out lines. Partially legible passages hinted at threats or warnings. Diaries referenced tensions in the household. Thomas Holloway's notes alluded to financial strain and unease. Margaret's letters hinted at worry over something unseen, a presence in the house that unsettled even the most rational observer. Official police records were incomplete. Some files partially destroyed, pages torn, evidence deliberately erased. Each fragment contributed to a pattern, a carefully orchestrated mystery, a vanishing designed to leave only questions behind. Servants' recollections provide further detail. They spoke of rooms that grew inexplicably cold, doors closing and opening without wind, shadows stretching across walls unnaturally, candles flickering without draft. The children played in the gardens, yet would stop abruptly, staring at something invisible. Mirrors reflected figures that should not exist. Furniture shifted without apparent cause. Animals behaved oddly, horses refusing to enter stalls, dogs barking at empty corridors. These repeated phenomena, recorded by multiple witnesses, suggest that something more than simple disappearance was at work, something that engaged the household itself. The Holloway family's personal effects were left behind. Plates, silverware, clothing, but arranged in ways that seemed deliberate. A piano occasionally sounded notes without touch, creating melodies that were both familiar and haunting. Diaries and letters hint at conflicts. Notes about family obligations, unspoken debts, and references to a curse passed through generations. The estate itself seems to have preserved the memory of these events. The walls absorbing the tension, the floors holding traces of footsteps, the air heavy with expectation. Archival evidence further complicates the narrative. Newspaper clippings from the time recorded conflicting accounts, sightings of figures at windows, children heard laughing when none were present, inconsistent dates, partial eyewitness reports, missing or altered files. A ledger from the local merchant suggested that Thomas Holloway paid for goods, yet the invoices returned unsigned with strange symbols. Some letters sent to relatives were never delivered. Others arrived blacked out. It is as if a deliberate erasure was taking place, a shaping of the narrative. The Holloways becoming invisible not only in body but in record. Even the physical estate contained hints of the extraordinary: hidden compartments, obscure hallways, cryptic inscriptions on walls, letters written in a hurried, almost frantic hand. The past is patient. It waits to reclaim what is owed. The fact layer grows more complex with each discovery. Deliberate concealment, financial anomalies, missing documents, cryptic diary entries. The Holloway disappearance appears less a singular event, more a series of orchestrated, interconnected phenomena, leading observers to question whether human agency alone could explain the extent of the mystery. Local superstition intertwined with the evidence. Stories of a family heirloom carrying a curse. Objects imbued with misfortune for those who touched them. Some believed that the disappearance was predestined, that the Holloways were the latest in a line of tragedies shaped by forces unseen. Witness reports described lights flickering in the mansion, footsteps retracing themselves, shadows moving independently. Even those who did not live on the estate felt the impact. Neighbors avoided the area at night, children warned by elders. The Holloway disappearance became woven into the collective consciousness, a human and folkloric memory intertwined. The deeper the investigation went, the less tangible the facts became. Each diary, letter, and ledger revealed gaps, erased sections, inconsistencies that could not be explained. The estate itself seemed to participate in the story. Objects moved, lights flickered, shadows lengthened. The Holloways vanished from sight, but the traces they left, physical, documented, and remembered, suggested orchestration, deliberate concealment, a mystery designed to confound and endure. Each fragment forms part of a lattice, a framework of evidence that invites speculation, fear, and fascination. Thus, the fact layer, too, establishes a chilling tableau: a family present, then absent, evidence manipulated or erased, documents destroyed, objects imbued with intentional meaning. Witness accounts, archival fragments, and financial anomalies converge, forming a narrative both perplexing and haunting. The Holloway disappearance is no longer simply an event. It is a pattern, a motif repeated in whispers, in shadows, in memory. It sits at the intersection of reality and legend, fact and folklore entwined, forming a legacy of the forgotten. And yet the Holloway estate stands empty to this day, its walls silent, its corridors echoing only with the memory of footsteps that were never taken. Local folklore insists that on certain nights, faint lights glow in the upper windows. Children's laughter drifts through abandoned rooms. Shadows move independently of any known source. Objects left in place decades ago, books, plates, letters, appear subtly displaced, as if the house itself remembers. Researchers and historians have walked these halls, some armed with cameras, notebooks, and instruments, hoping to capture evidence, to corroborate the stories. But what they find is often more unsettling than confirmation. Hidden compartments remain, narrow passages behind the library shelves, leading only to dead ends. Letters tucked within reveal hints of betrayal, cryptic warnings, mentions of debts owed to forces unseen. One diary entry written in haste reads, "The shadows are patient. They wait until silence is complete, and then they come." Financial records remain incomplete. Withdrawals made days before the disappearance, never reconciled. Signatures and ledgers appear authentic, yet questions linger. Who authorized the transfers? Where did the money go? These unanswered questions only deepen the mystery. Eyewitness accounts add layers of tension. Servants report cold spots, doors that open and close without cause, mirrors reflecting figures not present, candles flickering as though responding to an unseen breath. Children who survived nearby recall hearing voices, whispers that called their names, shadows that lingered longer than any natural source. Even animals responded, horses refusing to enter certain stalls, dogs barking at empty corridors. These human experiences converge, creating a lattice of perception, each witness a link in a chain connecting fact to the unknown. The mansion itself seems complicit, furniture subtly shifted, objects displaced, a piano striking occasional notes on its own, producing a melody both familiar and unnervingly distorted. Diaries hint at family conflicts. Letters speak of secrets so dark they were deliberately destroyed. Evidence suggests more than disappearance. Perhaps a meticulous orchestration, perhaps something beyond human comprehension. The Holloway's vanishing becomes a performance, a choreography of absence, shadows, and memory. Local superstition colors the tangible evidence. Stories of a cursed heirloom passed down generations, said to bring misfortune to any who disturb it. Some argue that the disappearance was predestined, an inevitable culmination of ancestral misdeeds. Lights appear in windows at night, footsteps retracing paths long abandoned, shadows moving against the flow of reality. These accounts, though anecdotal, are persistent, repeated across decades, across multiple witnesses. Folklore and fact now entwined, inseparable, forming a narrative that defies simple explanation. Investigators describe moments of intense unease, entering rooms where the air grows heavy, an almost tactile presence. Footsteps echoing when none should exist. Objects that were placed carefully days earlier moved subtly, as if the house itself were alive. Letters blacked out or torn, financial records erased, diaries smudged, official reports missing pages. The evidence forms a pattern, deliberate, precise, orchestrated to confound. The Holloway's disappearance cannot be reduced to accident or random misfortune. Even decades later, the estate continues to provoke fear and fascination. Visitors recount chills down their spines, fleeting glimpses of movement in peripheral vision, whispers carried on the wind. The mansion is both place and actor. Its very architecture seems to preserve the mystery, holding memory in the walls, the floors, the ceilings. Shadows twist and curl. Light flickers in unnatural ways. The house becomes a stage for absence, a theater where the Holloways remain, performers, though unseen. The city itself, Charleston, carries the weight, remembering, whispering, warning. The culmination of all evidence, all testimony, all observation is not clarity, but tension, a perpetual unresolved question. What became of the Holloway family? Were they taken by human hands, swept away by unseen forces, or caught in the inexorable pull of ancestral curses? Diaries hint at betrayal. Letters suggest secrets destroyed. The mansion in its silence refuses to answer. The presence of the Holloways lingers, haunting every shadow, every corridor, every window. The payoff is not revelation, but endurance. An unbroken thread of mystery running through time. And as the river flows silently below, as the wind stirs the leaves, as night falls over Charleston, the mansion waits, patient, watching. The lights flicker, the piano strikes, shadows lengthen, footsteps echo. The Holloways, though absent, remain, their story unresolved, their presence felt. Their disappearance is a prism through which fact and folklore intertwine, a tension that haunts and compels. The estate, the city, and the witnesses remain bound together by absence, memory, and the echoes of the forgotten. It is here, at the climax of the narrative, that the audience confronts the unresolved, the unknown, the fear that no ledger, diary, or official report can erase. The Holloway estate is more than a house. It is a testament to presence in absence, to memory in silence, to the enduring power of mystery. Shadows, whispers, displaced objects, flickering lights, all coalesce, forming the ultimate proof that the Holloways, though gone, are never truly forgotten. Who or what took the Holloway family? The question lingers over Charleston, stretching across decades, across generations. Official records provide little, incomplete, fragmentary, diaries torn, letters smudged, ledgers missing pages. The estate itself stands silent, yet alive, whispering, shadows stretching along the floors, lights flickering in the upper windows, objects subtly displaced, as if moved by unseen hands. Children's laughter drifts along empty corridors, a sound both joyful and unsettling, a melody that carries memory, that refuses closure. Folklore preserves what fact cannot, stories of wandering figures, shadows that twist independently, footsteps retracing themselves, lights appearing where no human should be. The mansion becomes more than architecture. It is a repository of memory of absence. It holds within its walls a presence that defies rational explanation. Researchers, historians, and curious visitors report chills, sensations of being watched, whispers in empty rooms, fleeting glimpses in mirrors. These accounts, layered over decades, transform the Holloway disappearance from a simple event into a legend. Yet the question remains, how does a family vanish, leaving no trace, yet leaving everything behind? The table set, the fire smoldering, letters and diaries, shadows and echoes. Was it human design, deliberate orchestration, foul play, or something beyond human comprehension? Even the most skeptical historians struggle to reconcile the facts with the reports. The evidence is fragmented, yet persistent, hinting at patterns, suggesting a deliberate shaping of memory or interference by forces unseen. The estate itself continues to exert influence. Visitors report sensations, hair standing on end, sudden drops in temperature, shadows that seem to observe, objects subtly moved, candles flickering, even animals respond, horses refusing certain areas, dogs barking at unseen presences. The Holloway mansion functions as both stage and actor, housing not just the memory of the family but the memory of the disappearance itself, a living record of absence, a narrative perpetuated through perception, emotion, and folklore. The human element preserves the Holloways, stories passed down orally, diaries and letters handed from one generation to the next. Witness accounts stitched together, creating a mosaic of perception and memory. Each account adds texture, depth, and dimension. It is through these human records that the family's presence endures. Their absence is a presence in itself, haunting the estate, the city, the riverbanks. Even the wind seems to carry whispers of what was, footsteps echoing along hallways long abandoned. Local superstition entwines with tangible evidence, a cursed heirloom passed through generations, said to exact misfortune, stories of shadows, lights, and spectral movement, corroborated across decades. The Holloway disappearance becomes a narrative both human and mythic, blending fact with folklore, leaving investigators, historians, and casual observers alike in a state of perpetual uncertainty. The pattern emerges, a motif. Families vanish silently, whispers remain, shadows stretch, memory persists. The climax of the narrative is not revelation, but endurance, tension, unresolved questions. The Holloway's fate remains unknown, whether by human hands, supernatural forces, or the weight of ancestral curses. Records incomplete, memories fragmented. The mansion itself a silent witness. Shadows twist, lights flicker, footsteps echo. The presence of the family is felt, though unseen. The estate, the city, the witnesses, all remain bound together by absence, by memory, by the echoes of the forgotten. And so as night falls over Charleston, the river glimmers silently below, the wind stirs leaves in the gardens, The Holloway estate stands patient, waiting. Observers report flickering lights, shadows dancing, whispers curling along corridors. Each visitor, each witness becomes part of the story. The Holloways, though absent, are never truly gone. The mystery endures, haunting, compelling, and unfinished. The legacy of the forgotten remains. What is the truth behind the disappearance? Was it human deception, supernatural force, or a convergence of both? Perhaps the answer will never be found. Yet the story lives on, in shadows, in whispers, in the hearts of those who dare to remember. And as you watch, imagine walking those silent halls, feeling the presence, hearing the echoes of a family erased, yet impossible to forget. If you want to uncover more stories like this, haunted families, vanished communities, and events that defy explanation, subscribe, follow us into the shadows of history, explore the forgotten corners of Charleston, and beyond. Every story is a thread, every whisper a clue, every shadow a memory, waiting to be remembered, waiting for you to listen.